Commissioner, Secretary-General, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here today to help launch this conference organised by Penal Reform International with the General Delegation of Penitentiary Administration and Reintegration as part of a project funded through the British Foreign Office's Arab Partnership Programme. The Foreign Office launched its Arab Partnership Programme in 2011 to support political and economic reforms across the Middle East and North Africa. I'm delighted to hear that under the Arab Partnership Programme, Penal Reform International has worked with Morocco's prison authorities to offer guidance on the safe, secure and humane management of prisons here. Part of Penal Reform International's work was to assist the General Delegation of Penitentiary Administration and Reintegration in redrafting Morocco's prison law in accordance with the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, also known as the Mandela Rules. This is a fantastic achievement, and we've already heard a lot about it this morning, and I loved hearing about the Professor's pride and happiness in this project. Once the new law is adopted, Morocco will be the first country in the world to reflect these rules in its national legislation. This is something that Morocco should be really proud of. In addition, the British government has been very impressed by the Moroccan government's work to reform the justice system. The draft penal code introduced a number of innovative measures to improve the justice sector, including looking at alternatives to imprisonment. Through the Arab Partnership Programme, Penal Reform International established the first committee of alternatives to imprisonment, with representatives from civil society, the judiciary, local actors in Mohammedia. Penal Reform International have also trained more than 100 prison staff on the effective application of security measures that respect the rule of law and international human rights norms. So why does all this matter? Because when prisoners enter prison, they become our responsibility. The government, any government, my government, your government, supported by society more broadly, has a duty to treat them with humanity, whatever they've done. If we don't, prisons fail, and failing prisons matter in human and in economic terms. The UK knows this from personal experience. I'm not saying this because we have got everything right all of the time. Quite the opposite. We've learned from bitter experience the cost of getting prisons policy wrong. We have 121 prisons in the UK, and a number of them have suffered from serious problems of intimidation, violence, drug taking, and so on. Some have become the places where our social problems are the most acute and where people's life chances are the most absent. That evidence has been difficult for us to absorb and has posed us difficult questions as a government and as a society. Failing prisons are not something that we are proud of. As a result, the UK is now embarking on a new programme of prison reform to try to ensure that our prisons are better run and that prisoners have the chance to mend their lives. We want to ensure that prisoners get the right health treatment, access to education, that young people are helped such that they don't leave prison only to reoffend again. We are looking too at the problem of radicalisation in our prisons and working with those prisoners that we have identified as vulnerable to extremism to ensure that they are not subject to intimidation, violence and grooming to force them into adopting a radical ideology themselves. We're also working on alternatives to prison because we believe that, depending on the nature of the crime and the person who committed it, there are situations when sending somebody to prison isn't necessarily the right solution. I'm sharing our experience with you to emphasise that this is a difficult issue. Good prison policy is hard, wherever you are in the world. But just because it's hard doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. Getting it right matters for the victims of crime, it matters for society, not least because one day every prisoner will be released back into society. And it matters that we don't give up on prisoners themselves. So I will end by saluting the work of everyone involved today. Penal Reform International, the Ministry of Justice, the General Delegation of Penitentiary Administration and Reintegration, the Moroccan Prison Observatory, and La Fondation Mohamed VI for their efforts and hard work. Prisons and prisoners are usually out of sight, but they cannot be out of mind. Thank you.